Well, hello, welcome everyone. This is our last live event of our third annual Make a Wheel Month. August is National Make a Wheel Month. Appreciate everybody that has tuned in, watched on the live and the replay. Y'all know how we do it over here. If you're watching live, give us a hashtag live and tell us where you're from. If you're watching on the replay, give us a hashtag replay and tell us where we're from. Again, I have my friend, my sister, the extraordinary attorney in South Florida, the very studious person, Sandy Bozeron, who is here to close us out with this particular subject in estate planning, making a will. And I really, really, really appreciate y'all. If y'all do not know Sandy, make sure you connect with her, follow her, reach out to her. But Sandy, take us home. You're closing it out tonight.
All right, so guys, this is our last and final moment to share with each other during Make a Will month. As you know, all month long, we've been talking about what happens if you don't have a will. And we've talked a little bit about the different people in our lives that are impacted when we don't have a will. We talked about things like real estate, financial accounts, investment accounts. We talked a little bit about some of the special things that need to be considered when you are trying to prepare your will, and some of the things that you need to be concerned about if you fail to create a will. Well, today, since we're wrapping up, we figure we'll go through some frequently asked questions that many of you may ask on a day to day basis, that many of you have wondered about, that many of you have wanted to ask, but didn't have someone that you can turn to. So let me give my disclaimer first, because we always got to give the little disclaimer. I am an
Right.
attorney licensed to practice in Florida, but I am not your attorney. Everything that we're discussing today is just for information only, and we've made it really nice and generic so that no matter where you are in the country, you can at least get some understanding about some basic things. But please understand that when it comes to this area of making a will, it is specific to the state that you live in. So you need to see an attorney, a licensed attorney in the area that you are in if you are planning to create your will. You just can't call up anybody anywhere and just say, hey, Sandy, I want you to create my will, and you're in California. No. So, again, disclaimer, I'm an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. And the information today is just for information only. All right. So, Troy, it's in your hands.
Yes. So, Sandy, we still having the issue with Facebook that is not showing live. So, still don't know what the issue with Facebook. It says only me. But anyway, so those are
Gotcha.
watching on LinkedIn, and then when it's over, those can watch it. It allows us to share it on Facebook once it's over. Don't know why. If anybody know what's going on, we're open to the solution. But anyway, so Sandy, question I have: do you believe most people avoid preparing a will because they think it's too expensive, or they feel it's too uncomfortable?
I feel like it's a combination. You do have a pocket of people that somehow believe that only rich people create wills, or it's just going to be a lot of money because everyone thinks attorney and they think a lot of money.
Mhm.
Anything with a lawyer, folks already have in their heads that it's just going to cost a lot of money. And I don't think folks realize that there are many different ways that you can go about getting yourself some legal services, and it's
Mhm.
not always going to be at a tremendous price tag. So sometimes you just need to consider there are options out there, and you just have to be willing to, kind of go through the process of doing your research and learning about the process. In terms of kind of being afraid of, the impact of creating a will, there are some people that believe if you create a will, like it's like you're preparing for your death. Like if you do a
Right,
will today, you're gonna be gone.
right.
I don't necessarily know where that came from. I understand why, because the
Yeah.
topics of conversation that you are having when you are preparing your will are many of the conversations about what happens after you're no longer here. So I do understand why someone would feel that way. But what I would say is this: if you ever see somebody posting a GoFundMe after someone passes away, if you ever see families going through court processes and family arguments about, what their mom or their dad left, if you ever see siblings at odds because mom or dad passed away and left the house with all of their names on it, kind of thing, then you know that sometimes those issues could have been resolved by some instructions from a document like a will. Now, a will is not the only document that exists to help you do this planning, but it is the document that we're focused on this month. However, there are a series of different things that you have to do to organize your plan.
Now, Sandy, you kind of made me think about something when you said, and I know each state has their laws and everybody's different. So let's say someone is looking for some estate planning. Let's say they actually have the money is not the issue. What would be the steps you would encourage them to select an estate planning attorney?
So I would say before we get to the point of finding the attorney, I would say you first need to come up with some basic things for yourself on your end first.
Mm-hmm.
Identify what it is that you want to happen when you are no longer. So if you identify first what your intentions are, like who you want to be taken care of, where you want certain things to go, how you want things to be divided, if you have any special wishes about, your funeral or your cremation or your burial, if you don't want certain things, if you don't want certain people, you can indicate those types of things in your final last will and testament. Now, in order for you to make a determination about an attorney, it would be helpful for you to figure out, what types of things you're looking for. Are you looking for flexibility in payment? Are you looking for someone that's close to you, local? Are you flexible to having someone who is virtual? Is it bothersome to you if the person doesn't live in your city or your county? Do you want someone who has many years of experience? Are you looking for somebody who is specialized in a certain area, let's say special needs? Do you want someone who's familiar with real estate or maybe has a real estate background? There are a lot of little things that you might want to ask about when you are looking for that attorney who's going to do your estate planning. There are attorneys out here who not only are experienced in probate real estate, for example, but they're also experienced in the estate planning. They're also experienced in tax. So you have to decide on what your needs are. The more needs that you have, the more detailed you have to make your search. Also,
Gotcha.
sometimes it's good to ask friends and family. You may have a friend or family member that went to an attorney for a probate. There are a lot of probate attorneys that do the estate planning piece as well. So they get the best of both sides because they're doing the planning before someone passes away, but they're also handling the affairs. So as an example, when someone passes away who I did documents for, oftentimes the family will reach out and say, my mom or my dad or my family member did their documents with you. Can we now do the probate? We have the will. Can we do the probate?
Mhm.
So those are things to consider as well. So there are a lot of layers to the process, but the most important is organizing your information first and then identifying what it is that you're looking for in an attorney, because there are a lot of varieties out here in as much as there's a lot of different types of social media platforms, right? There's a lot of variety
Right.
when it comes to attorneys. There are new attorneys that just got out of school that may have some experiences. There are very seasoned attorneys that have been doing this since the beginning of time, right? So you
Right.
have to find your fit and what you desire.
So should a person interview attorneys like a job, like interview?
So I can't really say that you would necessarily interview attorneys because some attorneys do charge consultation fees. So there's not going to be, I'm not going to just be able to call them up and speak to them for free.
Mhm.
But sometimes there is the opportunity for you to work with an attorney. Bear with me, Troy. I think my computer is giving me some weird signal here.
Okay. It's technology.
All right, I got to plug myself in because I think it's going down. So sorry to cut off. Real life always kicks in. So
Right.
there are not necessarily interviews that you'll do with attorneys typically because you may end up having to pay a consultation fee. But
Mhm.
if you ask around, many times in your local area, you may have friends and family who are familiar with different attorneys. I,
Mhm.
for example, have a number of attorneys that I know that do a variety of different things. So sometimes friends or family will ask me, do I have an immigration attorney? Do I have a criminal attorney? Do I have a personal injury attorney? So you may ask your friends and family, has anybody dealt with any attorneys recently that can recommend someone? And sometimes that's helpful, someone who knows someone. Another thing is you can look up attorney information on the state bar website.
Okay.
So if the attorney is in Florida or Georgia or California or New York, there should be a state bar. So I'll type into Google State Bar of Florida or State Bar of Georgia or State Bar of California, attorney search or lawyer search. And typically you'll be able to find basic information about the attorney. When did they become an attorney? Do they have any discipline in their background? What practice areas do they do? Where did they go to school? Um, you might find out if they have a physical office or if they're virtual or if they have a line that you can call or um, they may have some social media. You may be able to go to their website and find out some information about them. So a lot of attorneys have plenty of information about them online. So you can look people up and find out what they know and what they're experienced in. Also, social media is a great place too. A lot of attorneys are on social media these days and they speak about a lot of different topics. And sometimes that's a great thing. You see what the attorney speaks about, and oftentimes you may feel a connection to a particular attorney. So sometimes that's a helpful thing. But all in all, it's doing your research to figure out, what is a best fit for you in the best way that you can figure it out because it's not always going to be easy to figure out who's going to be your attorney.
And those that are tuning in, Sandy is on social media, but I think a lot of your social media is more lifestyle rather than legal things, and so
Right.
everybody use their social media, a particular purpose, But if you want to connect with her, make sure you connect with her, and she will be a blessing to you. So, uh,
I will say, Troy, I will add one thing. Um,
okay,
I did start doing videos on TikTok, so I do have a collection of videos on my firm TikTok and my firm
Mhm.
Instagram. So you may
Okay,
be able to find at least some basic information, some frequently asked questions that I was doing for a little bit of time. And I kind of
yeah,
shifted gears a bit, but just wanted
yeah.
to add
And part of that, our business is sometimes evolved and life happens and different things, and so you can have where you was focusing on one area and then things change and you kind of like you said, things shifted, and so you kind of shifted because a lot of times being a solopreneur, this it's a lot sometimes, and so
that. Right.
you have to really keep balance with everything that you got going on.
Absolutely.
So, which do you think is harder on families? I probably can answer this, but this question is for the audience. Which do you think is harder on families? Probate court delays or family disputes?
Wow. I would say court delays because a court process is going to cost you money.
Mm-hmm.
A
Okay.
family dispute may or may not cost you money.
Gotcha.
Some people pick and choose whether or not they want to deal with certain levels of things. So I think it depends in the family dispute part. But I
Well,
think court process, I don't know.
Well,
Court
I was
process is
thinking,
rough.
reason why I was thinking family dispute, because something that you said in one of the earlier videos or recordings live that we had, you may mention that family many times it don't communicate. It becomes problems and issues because the family didn't communicate what they really want, and they pick and choose, and things are not clear. And so that's the reason why I was thinking family may be one, but like you said, it just depends on the situation or where it falls. And then I remember you said with court delays, there's many times things you can't control.
Right. So with court delays, you definitely couldn't control it. And with family, I would say that there's a degree of I can regulate a few things.
Yeah.
Example, mothers, fathers, single folks, folks that have family members who have special needs, folks who own a lot of real estate, folks who own businesses. There's a lot of things that we can control right now while we're living, while we're
Mhm.
able. There's a lot of preparations that we can do. There's a lot of plans that we can put in place. But the moment that we pass away, all of that goes right out the door.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing else that you can do to make something happen or to decide on how something's going to be divided. You're no longer here. And so if you don't have a will, hey, the
Mhm.
court process and the state laws will decide what happens in every aspect.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do have a will, you have an opportunity to have your voice heard in the court process versus forcing the court to have to go to state law.
I'm still dumbfounded that people don't get that. And I guess it's kind of uh, like life insurance. People don't make it a priority. There's different, being in the life insurance industry, there's different. Sometimes if it's a male and he has a spouse, he may say, well, I don't want to leave for another man. Just different things that some people say, well, just put me in a box, and so I just don't get sometimes some of the things that people say that don't make the preparation, with leaving, you know, things with their family. I get it, misconception is
Yeah.
costly, but
I mean, Troy, if they built the box already and you were able to put them in the box, that would be a different story. But a lot of times they're
right,
telling you to put them in something
right,
and they
yeah,
haven't even built the box. They didn't even leave a
right,
box for you to put them in.
right. And
So
somebody got to pay for the box or at least the
somebody
materials.
got to pay for the box.
Yeah, yeah. And so, it just amazes me, with this because, a lot of this we're working hand in hand, the estate planning piece and the insurance piece, a lot of times works together. Uh, what simple step someone can take today to start protecting their family's future? One simple step.
Uh, Set up an
Yes,
inventory. I would
inventory.
say that's the most important step because if I have an inventory set up, that means I've identified what I have, where I have it, any details on how to access it, whether it be a account number, a password, a username. If I've set up those basics, even if my family doesn't have what they need, they'll have a starting point. So, at the basic level, if you set up your estate inventory, which means you're basically creating a list in whatever
Mhm.
form that you like, whether it's handwritten, whether it's typed up in a spreadsheet, you're creating a list of everything you own, everything you have an interest in, everything that you potentially could receive as a beneficiary. You're listing all of the things that are in your control. And so that if you happen to pass away and you don't have a will, you at the bare minimum are leaving your family with something critical, information. That's something that many families don't have. Someone passes away, everybody's scrambling trying to figure out. Sometimes people don't have the password to the computer and the person pays all their bills online. Sometimes people don't have documents regarding the business They don't have access to the bank account because there's no checkbook. Everything's online. So if you leave the information, you leave your family empowered with at least something. And even better, if you're able to leave them with a will, there you at least give them the opportunity to know what your wishes were, right? Because if I leave them
Right.
with information, that's a starting point.
Yeah.
But if I leave them with information and my intentions, man, I mean, that's peace of mind. That's the best gift you could give to your family.
I'm going to throw out a complex, and I want you to kind of give this a breakdown. So you have a business owner who owns a business, and he has partners.
Yeah.
We can use Florida. There's no buy-sell agreement in place.
Oh boy.
And the family comes and say, well, maybe let's say the wife, well, it was my husband and business, it should go to me. But the business partner said, well, no, it's my business with him. What would the courts typically uh, do in that instance?
So I couldn't tell you what courts would typically do in that instance because it depends on quite a few different factors, right? So it depends on the type of business, the type of business structure, if there were any agreements or contracts in place, the nature of the partnership. Um, if it's a professional business, it may require some, business regulation issues to be addressed. Um, Thinking of, for example, a law firm, even though someone's your family and they would have an interest in that business in terms of the financial aspect down the line, they can't just come in and come and look through client files, for example, right? So
Right, yeah.
there's steps that would need to be taken. So when it comes to a business, the big picture answer I can give you is it depends. It really depends on everything that's in place for that business and who the stakeholders of that business are. If that business is a corporation, there may be one issue. If that business is an LLC, that may be different. If that
Yeah.
business is some kind of a solo, like a partnership, there may be some other issues with, you know, whatever agreement that the partners had. One partner could have, the full interest in the financials, whereas the other partner is still trying to work up their financials. It really depends on a lot of factors. So I would say it depends.
And that's, with that being said, that's where the buy-sell agreement would be huge, because I'm working with Sandy. The buy-sell, for those that don't know, buy-sell agreement is when a partners agree that in the event if one of them pass, the other partner or partners can purchase their portion of the business. And that
Right.
can be done with a life insurance policy. And that's kind of my expertise, and that's where I can kind of work with attorneys. I provide insurance, but the attorney will draft the documents stating these are the parameters of this buy-sell agreement, and we provide the life insurance piece.
Absolute, absolute. And so in particular for those who are business owners and they have, certain things at stake, I think it's important for business owners to consider the planning for their business as well, because it's not just planning for yourself as an individual. Your business should have its own business succession plan so that
Right.
in the event that something does happen to you, there is something in the paperwork for your business that says these are the things that will happen upon the passing of this person or the passing of that person. And one thing I will tell you is when you mentioned, the buy sell and having insurance, key man insurance,
Yep.
other kinds of special insurance coverage that might need to be had for each of the partners. Those are things that need to be considered in that whole business succession planning. So when we talk about making a will for yourself individually, you also need to think of the next level, which is creating documents to support your business entities or business interests. So that's something to consider as well.
Sandy, now we got our uh, we have our, what's the word, our material for next year. business.
We could probably do that. I might have to bring
Yeah,
in somebody to the table because that's not my forte, but we could definitely do that. Make
yeah,
sure that at least one of the four episodes
right.
of this series will have something about
Yeah,
business.
cool. Yes, we love it, and I think that would also, help the people that's tuning in and listening in, and give them some more insight, and maybe light bulbs start coming on for those that have those businesses. Now,
Absolutely.
Sandy, you said I don't want to take the whole time. You said you had some FAQs, so let's do your FAQs. And
All
before
right.
you
So let me see if
go,
I can.
Sandy, let me share again. Thank you if you're watching live. I know it's live on LinkedIn. I think YouTube, and then maybe also Instagram. If Sandy streaming to Instagram, if you're watching this live, give us a hashtag live. Tell us where you're coming from. This is August is National Make a Will Month. We have Sandy Bozeron, attorney in South Florida, who is sharing with us insights in estate planning and wills. Also, if you're watching on on the replay later on, do us a favor, give us a hashtag replay, and tell us where you're from. All right, Sandy, go ahead.
All right. So I decided to go the Chat GPT route. So I pulled a couple of things from Chat
Okay.
GPT, and one question that I see here that I really love is, at what age should someone start estate planning? This is something that I've been asked on a number of different occasions. And
Mhm.
what I say to this is, the moment that you have the age to make decisions for yourself is the moment that you should be deciding to create your estate plan, because your estate plan is not something that you make and then just let it sit until you pass away. It's something that's supposed to grow with you as your family grows, as your experience grows, as your assets grow. It's intended to be updated regularly as changes happen in your life. So 18 sounds like the age of majority for most places. So at
Mhm.
age 18, you should begin the foundation of your estate planning, which would mean creating your will, having a power of attorney for your financials, having a power of attorney for your health care. That is the bare minimum that you should have set at age 18.
You
All
know,
right.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to go to the next question, but you have a question.
Yeah, so at 18, a person should start. So my question I wanted to say is the estate plan should be, what's the term I'm looking for? It should be fluid, um, I guess, strategy where it's constantly moving and evolving. I don't know if fluid is
I
the
mean,
best terminology.
I think that's a good word for it. It's something that's constantly evolving and changing over time.
Mhm.
It's not something that, again, that you're just creating and letting it sit. Your estate
Right.
planning is something that's going to grow and change with you. And so you can revise your plan at any time. You can revoke certain aspects of your plan anytime. You can amend your plan at any time. But it's important that you know that it's not something that just sits stagnant. It's constantly evolving and growing and changing.
Thank you. Now, your next question. I think you wanted to go to the next question.
Another one of my favorites. Do I need an estate plan if I don't have a lot of assets? Here's the thing. The estate plan is not about the number of assets. The estate plan is about you making decisions and giving instructions to your family and to the court. So if something were to happen to you, you're going to have a voice in the process. And it's always funny when I hear people say, well, what if I don't have a lot of assets? I think most of the time they're referring to dollar signs like money.
Yeah.
But let's think about this. Even if I didn't have much money, do I own a home?
Mm.
Do I own furniture? Do I have artwork, shoes, clothing, household furnishings, jewelry? Do I have anything of value? Do I own a vehicle? Do I have a bank account? Do I have an investment account? Do I have crypto? Do I have a 401k or an IRA? Do I have a life insurance policy? Do I own real estate or other interests? Am I invested in any business entities? Am I a partner or a shareholder of a business entity? See, I've gone through that whole list, and I'm pretty sure even the person that would say, oh, well, I don't have that many assets, should be able to say, hey, I have something from that list.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
the importance of estate planning. It's not about, do I have a bunch of money? It's about, do I have instructions in place at the time that my life ends? Is someone going to be able to look to my instructions and make those decisions on my behalf?
I think that's excellent that you make mention. It's not about uh, assets for as money, but it's things that you do have, and you giving instruction. That you this has been your I guess favorite word you use a lot in these series. It's giving instructions to the court, to your family. You know, and for those that's listening, again, I'm gonna say this again. Many of us, we don't like the government in our business. We hate the government being involved. You know, whether it's something that's bad or something good, we don't want the government involved. Well, if we pass without a will, the government gets involved. And Sandy, do you think if we start presenting it in that fashion, people may respond more? You know, hey, you want to keep the government out.
we need to get more clickbaity. We got to have a dry erase board so I can start writing on the dry erase board, and
right.
we got to get more clickbaity. We're doing a little too intellectual here. So
right.
I think if we do approach it from different fronts, because there's some people that are going to respond well to this style of presentation. There are some people that need to hear something about something that directly affects them. Example, social media influencers don't realize that they have something, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may not be making a bunch of money from their channels, but their channels are assets. Their accounts are assets. The information that you are sharing on these platforms are part of your estate. And this is actually going to lead me to my next question, which is, what exactly is estate planning and why is it important? Well, your estate is everything that you own. And at the time of your passing, there's going to be an inventory of everything that you own that's in your name only at the time of your passing, to determine whether or not you're going to go through a probate court process or whether or not your assets can be distributed without a court process. Oftentimes, the things that are distributed outside of a court process are things that you can touch: furniture, household furnishings, jewelry, artwork, clothing, shoes, all of those personal effects. Sometimes vehicles and boats and things like that as well fall into that category. So a lot of those tangible things that you can touch are often going to be able to be distributed without really much intervention, unless you have rare artwork or rare collections and things like that, or rare jewelry, right? Or high value items, right? So when it comes to just thinking about everything that you own in general, though, there are things that you own that require a little more than just instructions from a will. Because if you own a piece of real estate, we all know that you have a title to your property. You have a deed. If you own a vehicle, oftentimes you have a title to that vehicle. Now, generally speaking, depending on the state that you're in, a certain number of vehicles may be exempt from going through a court process. But if you own some rare collectible vehicles and additional vehicles beyond whatever your state's cap is, then you may have to calculate that as part of your estate. So it's thinking about the fact that your estate is everything that you own. And in order to do estate planning, what you're doing is you're identifying all of the things that you own. You're creating basically an inventory, and you're identifying where those items are, how to access those items, and who those items are to go to in the event of your passing. Why is it important? Because you get to make the decision. Because if you don't make the decision, guess what? You pass away today. Hey, family is going to be in your bedroom today, trying to pick what they want.
True.
And you might not have wanted certain people to be touching any of your stuff. You might have wanted your stuff to go to your kids. You might have wanted to give your stuff to charity. Well, guess what? You passed away. There's no instructions. Your stuff is going to go to whoever's rummaging through your things.
Yeah.
If you have financial accounts and things like that, and you have family members that you don't want to receive those things, but you don't have any children, you don't have a spouse, well, guess what? Your things will likely go to those family members that you didn't want them to go to. All
Right.
because you didn't have certain instructions in place, or you didn't leave any beneficiary designations on your accounts. So the big question is, why is it important? It's important for you to be able to make those decisions so that others will not make those decisions for you.
Yeah. So true. What other questions you got, Sandy? FAQs.
Let's see what else we got on our list. Who should I name as the executor of my will? Now, I'm going to use some different language for this executor word because in Florida, we have what's called a personal representative. In some states, they call this role an administrator. In
Okay.
other states, they may call that person an executor. And this person is the person that you are going to identify, or the persons that you are going to identify who will handle your final affairs. So your will is going to be executed by those people in terms of doing the things that need to be done according to the instructions in your will. So if your will says all of my household furnishings go to my daughter, then that's what the executor or the personal representative or the administrator will do. If your will says that this property is going to go to my children and there's no deed or other document to transfer that property, then the executor will have to file a case with the court and will have to get an order of the court in order for that interest to be transferred from your name as the deceased to the names of your children. And again, as a disclaimer, side note, this is for informational purposes only. Depending on your state, there may be some more things that happen or less things that happen or different processes. I can only speak from the Florida perspective, okay? So who should you name as the executor of your will? The person that you trust. The person that you trust. Now, many folks will name a husband or a wife or a partner. Many folks will name children. Many folks will name a best friend or a longtime friend or a family member, a sibling. It is all up to you. The main point is you need to appoint someone to handle your final wishes as your executor, administrator, or personal representative, someone that you trust to handle your final requests. Okay?
So Sandy,
Can I? Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask a question on this. So the personal representative, the administrator, or the executive, and they're carrying this out, so they have to file some for the court. Does that person, are they responsible to pay for it also? Because I know it's court fees.
So I'm gonna say it depends. If the person obviously, may be in a position where they don't have access to monies and they don't have family members willing to, tap in or contribute to at least opening the case, they would have to do either GoFundMe. They would have to maybe see if they have their own funds that they can throw into it. They would have to maybe see if there's any items that can be sold in order for those things to be done. It really depends on what the person has access to and who they are. If it's a surviving spouse, maybe the surviving spouse has things that are jointly owned or that they own specifically on their own, and maybe they'll have to sell some things in order for them to afford the court process. Also, there are times that certain attorneys will allow you to take on the case and get their fees paid on the back end. That's not a common thing, but I have seen that done if the attorney can verify that there are in fact assets, right? That there is in fact some money in a bank or a house that's going to be sold or something like that, so that they can confirm that they're going to get paid at the end of the process. So, there's a lot of different possibilities. But generally speaking, what I've found is the person that's handling the final affairs typically will pay out of pocket for the, expense of the attorney and the court fees.
Gotcha.
And they'll get reimbursed, provided that there's money that's going to
Mhm.
come into the estate, they'll get reimbursed typically in at least in Florida, I will say. I don't know about other states, how their reimbursement or expenses go.
Well, and that goes to show you that uh, setting people up to, you know, the wheel and setting up the instructions, but also having uh, maybe an insurance policy for of that to be covered, you know, or reimbursed, whatever case may be. So
Yeah,
these things are more important because when you said that, I'm like, okay, I know it's cost some fees. If you name somebody that, then they have to be able to handle that for the person. So very
absolutely.
interesting. I think, you know, I never really even thought about that. I looked at that, so that's very interesting there.
All right.
Well,
Good old
Sandy,
chat GPT. What else we got? Can we get in one more question?
yeah, let's get it one more.
All right. Can I write my own will or do I need a lawyer? Now, you know that this is one of my favorite questions
Right,
because so many times I see these I wrote it myself wills or the fill in the blank wills or the do it yourself wills or the quickie wills that say, you can do it online in 5 minutes.
yeah,
You can do whatever you want to do. Ideally, I've seen all kinds of wills presented in the probate court process, wills typed up by people themselves, wills that were from some website where they were just filling in blanks, wills that you could clearly tell were not drafted by an attorney. I've seen all kinds of things. The concern about drafting your own will is you don't know what you don't know.
right,
And so when it comes to changes in the law and updates to the law and requirements and different parameters that you have to satisfy in order for you to have a valid and effective will that will be accepted by the court, you may come into some problems if you're not doing your research, right? Because lawyers go to law school to learn how to craft documents, how to use the law, how to refer to statutes. So if you're not a lawyer type, if you're not someone who has a legal background, who understands what needs to be incorporated, you're likely to make a mistake that will never be able to be fixed because at the time that the mistake is discovered, you have already passed. And
true,
one thing that you don't want is to have left a will with your specific instructions and to have that will deemed invalid because it does not meet the standards of that state to be a valid will. So that is one of the biggest concerns that I always have with drafting your own will. Again, my answer is of course you can do it if you want to. Do you want to do it? Absolutely not. You want to get some legal advice in any shape or form to make sure that what you are drafting is actually going to be effective at the time of your passing. And that's all I could say with that.
Sandy. We're getting ready to end, but I think
Yes.
you need to share your favorite quote to end this, so people know to add on to what you just said.
So, my favorite quote of all time is our lives are not fill in the blanks. So, you cannot just take in a pre formatted form and say, this is my will, and I'm just going to fill in those blanks and it's going to satisfy every and all situation. A document that is a will is a document that is your last wishes. So, your last wishes and my last wishes, Troy, may not be the same.
True.
Your family structure and my family structure may not be the same. Therefore, there's no way that we're just going to take a one size fits all and think that we're going to be able to fill in a document that will satisfy every situation. So it's important that you understand that our lives are not fill in the blanks. We cannot just pop some words in some spaces and that's going to solve all of our family problems, right? No.
Right.
It could very well create a situation where you end up with nothing left for the family members that you actually wanted to leave them for. Okay. So please think about that carefully before you make the decision to do it yourself. This is not the realm to do so. I say the same thing with business. I say the same thing with, your work life. It's not a do it yourself realm. You need to do your research, do your due diligence, and get a licensed professional to review your documents if, God forbid, you choose to go that route. Okay.
Well, Sandy has closed it out with her favorite quote. And again, if you're watching live, well, it'll be a replay. If you're watching on the replay, give us a hashtag and tell us where you're from. We've covered 3 weeks. We did 1 week. We did 2 sessions.
Right.
And we have wrapped up this August National Make a Will Month. One of the things that I recommend that you speak with an attorney and get your will made, get your will set up. But I want to thank Sandy for taking us time out of a schedule. This 3rd year in a row, we have done this annual event sharing insights on estate planning and will. It's very educational, very informative. So Sandy, again, thank you so much. Appreciate you. If you, well, tell them how to sign and connect you, because we won't see each other again on this, but maybe a year.
So I would say the best way to get connected with me is you can check out my YouTube channel at Spectrum Law, where you can watch the replay of this 4-part series. And in the description, you should be able to find some further information. Also, you can simply Google Spectrum Law Florida, and you will find information from my website, again, Spectrum Law Florida. So those are the 2 easy ways that you can find my information.
Awesome. Well, everyone that's tuning in and listening, we thank you also for watching, for participating, for sharing. We apologize for the issue with Facebook not getting when we're actually live. They get the recording, but we will hopefully we'll see you again next year. And again, Sandy, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you. We're out.
Likewise, thank you, Troy, the Chief Encouragement Officer. Another great one. So let me go ahead and end it. Have a great one, guys.